Welcome to this, the very first of a new series at Mapperton. It's just Julie and me, and we are in conversation. We've been trying to decide what to call this. I think it should be called In Conversation. You think it's kind of...
because it's really the name of the playlist. So obviously it's going to have a thumbnail and a title, and the title will be what we're about to chat about. But overall in the playlist, I thought it should be like fireside chats, because mostly it's so cold here in England and in the house that we'll be having the fire on for these fireside chats most of the time. Today we aren't, even though it is June
Fireside
and
chats
it's cold.
Elevates it to the level, obviously, of a presidential conversation, which it isn't. But we are by the fireside, and that is an American phrase. So let's go with fireside
chats as the playlist, everybody.
And
Big debate.
What we're wanting to do is meet a couple of times a month, really, to just talk about what's going on in a bit more detail.
In a bit more detail. And it will be topic focused, and I might be asking Luke some questions, but pretty prepared. Questions, I should say. Not the answers.
Yeah.
Questions.
Except we haven't prepared anything for today, or at least I have a little bit, and Julie has no idea. Or maybe you've got some things.
I've got a little bit too.
We're
both prepared.
Okay.
We're both prepared. I think we're both prepared. It's our inaugural fireside chat. I came prepared.
That is fantastic. And of course, if you have suggestions for things in the future, then please do put them in the comments down below. Things that you'd like us to be talking about. We would welcome hearing from you.
Exactly. All right, so do you want to go first?
So
nice. This is nice.
Yeah, we haven't got a cup of tea.
Oh my goodness. Oh, we don't have a cup of tea.
I know. Next time.
Next time.
Yeah.
We were so busy preparing for our first one, we forgot to make ourselves a good cuppa.
It's important.
Do you know what I mean? Getting this set up.
A good cuppa is really important.
A good cuppa is important.
So anyway, the very first one that I thought we would do would cover an enormous topic.
Oh.
Possibly the biggest of all topics.
Oh my goodness.
Which is, what direction do we want to take Mapperton in over the long term? It's something that we think about and talk about a lot. And there are so many different ways that these country houses and estates can evolve. I mean, one of the great challenges always is thinking about the sustainability of a place like Mapperton. And we have such enormous bills that we have to cover in order to do all the maintenance, all of the rising utility costs, all of the costs of the people who are working here. And then we've also got to balance that against the fact that this is a family home. It's somewhere that we live. And obviously, 100 years ago, it was very different. These houses weren't open to the public at all. They relied very much on income from agriculture, which is much, much lower than it was in those days.
That's right.
So they simply have to be creative and think of new ways to generate income. And it's always a trade-off. And so many things have been done since the Second World War to bolster income. I mean, the biggest of all, obviously, and the thing that kicked it all off was people actually opening their houses for the first time.
Right. Your sort of great cousin did that. Edward Montagu, Lord Montagu of Beaulieu, was one of the first homes to open up to the public.
Well, we know that after the war, lots of houses and estates were ruined. They were left. The houses were destroyed. But there were some very enterprising aristocrats who got on and realised that actually there was a future if we started to open these places to the public. And as you say, Edward Montagu, Lord Montagu of Beaulieu, was one of the pioneers in doing that. And he then turned that into an enormous enterprise. And it became the National Motor Museum. So people were coming for the cars. They weren't just coming to see the house and gardens. He put in a monorail. It became a whole visitor attraction. And I think at its peak, it had something like 500,000 visitors a year,
and also,
which is a huge number compared to the 15,000 that we get
here. But also it's good to point out that Edward Montagu, Lord Montagu of Beaulieu, was, he's the one who really helped create the association known as Historic Houses. And he became then the first president of historic houses. And this association that we're involved in as well helps to lobby government to make sure that we can get, I guess grants sometimes, or at least grants that are available to us, but also because government changes so much here, it's going from Labour to Tory to Labour to Tory to Tory to Labour, back and forth. You're always dealing with new people. And that's what the association does to make sure that we're still here.
Yeah, yes, and it's been a hugely important association. So the Historic Houses Association, now known as Historic Houses, is the membership organisation for all of the private historic houses and estates. Not everybody is a member, but many are. And becoming a member of that organisation gives you access to the houses and to the gardens. So you pay a membership and you get free access to all these places, including Mapperton. So if you haven't joined Historic Houses, actually this is a good moment to really suggest you do. It's a fantastic deal because one price for membership in the year gives you access to everywhere. But bringing it back to Mapperton, I mean, our challenge here, and we've talked about this many times on our videos, is always that we struggle to get people to come and visit because we are so far away from any big city. We're an hour and a half east of Exeter, we're an hour and a half west of Poole and Bournemouth, we're an hour and a half to 2 hours south of Bath and Bristol.
Can I just say something about that also? Because I know that as an American, and I know the Americans, many of you who'll be watching this and listening to this will think, well, that's not very far, because in America, we're so used to just getting in our car and we will drive hours. We will drive from one coast to the next, but it's different over here. It's just...
Yeah, but also you won't, if you were going out with your family on a day trip, in America, you wouldn't drive 2 hours to get to the place. And then
you certainly would. There's going to be a lot of people commenting saying, "What? Yeah, we would."
Well,
of course.
in the UK, maybe we're just a little lazier. We don't want to travel more than an hour. An hour is the maximum. So an hour is what we want to do in order to take the kids out for the day, or to go on a trip somewhere.
And I also think it's a bit different because in America, many of the roads are just sort of straight, Roman roads, if you like, big motorway, big highway, big interstate, and you get there's your exit. Lots of lanes.
America
across,
is the land of the car.
Right, exactly. And
these are little windy lanes. People don't like them so much.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's our first limiting factor, if you like, at Mapperton, is that we're never going to have that big audience, that big number of day trippers who will just come because we're close to some city. And that is not a problem that most historic houses have. Most historic houses are much closer to a major city than we are, and so they can just get their numbers up. So when we think about the future of Mapperton, we have to really take that into consideration, because there's just a natural limit on the numbers that we can get here. I mean, I always have hoped that we could get up
to 20.
Well, I always hoped we could get to 30,000,
really?
But we've just struggled to get above 15.
15, I know.
15 we've hit a couple of times. It's just really hard.
It's really hard. So
sometimes if we have a movie or there's a TV series,
we could really use it. We could really use it.
If there's any Hollywood producers out there watching this,
contact us.
Mapperton
it's a great period
Nation.
home. It's fantastic. It's been on Far From the Mad in Crowd, featured in Far From the Mad in Crowd. It was Rebecca. Anyway, so you're right. So the question is, because we know that we really have, I guess, a small opportunity as far as visitor income to bring the visitors in, we've got to be thinking elsewhere. Of course we'll maintain probably that 15,000. I don't know if it's necessarily going to grow bigger than that, but we need something, I guess.
Something more than that. Now, the thing that we had thought about that would make the difference there was weddings.
Yes.
And we do have roughly 15 wonderful weddings a year here at Mapperton, and people get married here and they just have the most terrific experience.
Yeah.
But again, because we're quite far away, there's a statistic that most brides want to get married.
Good statistic here.
Within an hour of where they live, and we are just not within an hour of a huge number of brides.
Right.
So then you have to sort of shift your focus away from being somewhere that a bride would get married locally, or a couple would get married locally. And by the way, I say bride as if it's the bride that makes the decisions. I think it often is. But I'm sure there are some grooms out there.
Yeah.
And so what do we do then? How do we react to that? Well, one way to react to that is to become what's called a destination wedding site. So what that means, though, is typically that you have to have enough accommodation for everybody to come.
Yeah.
And a wedding party here is typically 100 people. That probably means, 50 bedrooms.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we can put people up in 2 holiday cottages, but we don't have enough to accommodate all of those people. And for that reason, we're not a destination wedding. So that is another limiting factor.
It is a limiting factor. And the other thing I want to mention about that is that there are, of course, some historic houses that open up their house and the wedding party or guests stay in the house. But I think for you and I, we're not quite there yet to do that, because this is our family home. And then if we do that and we're not saying, we're not ruling it out.
No, it is something we've talked about a lot, and this is a real challenge. Now, if we let the house for wedding parties so that the wedding party can stay in the house, there are a couple of things we've got to think about, and these are really important.
Yeah.
First is obviously, as you say, we have to move out. We can't. The house isn't big enough for us just to be in a wing on our own.
It's a small Elizabethan house.
We will have to move out. So that's one thing. And if this is our home, it feels a bit odd to be moving out. We wouldn't give up our bedroom.
No, we've agreed that. When we've had these chats, we've agreed that.
But we would have to give up everything else, and that's a tricky thing. Having said that, we think for the right weddings we might consider it. Another consideration, though, for us here is that Mapperton is full of really valuable antiques and pictures and so on. And sometimes, even in the very best behaved wedding parties, there can be 1 or 2 people who just for whatever reason stumble, bump into something, etc. And it's not like a hotel where the objects in the rooms are carefully chosen so that if they do get broken, it probably doesn't matter too much.
Right.
So we'd have to move a lot of stuff out. We'd have to close off the drawing room because that's got far too many valuable and fragile things in it. It's just, that is a challenge.
That is a challenge itself. So again, we've kind of gone from visitors. We know we're probably going to maintain around 15,000. It's going to be very hard for us to grow that number and grow it quickly. Weddings, same thing. Again, the travel, the distance, and because we're not right now opening up the house to the wedding party or whatever is difficult because we aren't this we can't go to a wing, et cetera, et cetera. So where do we shift?
Can we stick with weddings for a bit longer? Because I just want to talk about a couple of other things. So one of the challenges as well with weddings is that there are some places that open up for 60 to 100 weddings a year. And whilst I can see that really working in places, it's often in houses where the whole house has been given over to the wedding. So they've taken out a lot of the valuable, fragile family chattels. Right. And we at Mapperton would find that quite difficult.
By the way, I love the word chattel. It's one of my favorite words when I'm over here.
Should I say it again?
Yeah, chattel.
Chattel.
Thank you.
There you go. And if we want the public to be able to come and enjoy Mapperton, it's got to have all the things in it, because those are the things that tell the story of our family history. So if you created a wedding space in the house, you would lose all of that.
And then you would lose the visitors for the house tourists.
And part of what we want to do here is have as many people coming here and hearing the stories, going on the tours, seeing
my Alberta
going to Julie's
exhibition about your great-grandmother, the American Heiress.
And again, if we have too many weddings, whilst wedding parties obviously have a fantastic time here, it's a different sort of experience. They're not coming here to learn in the same way, to appreciate in quite the same way. So anyway, that's another reason why, I've always felt that we're trying to do several things and we've got to keep them in balance. If we have too much of one thing, then it kind of distorts the others. But that's the tricky thing. The balance isn't quite enough at the moment.
And it's a good point, because you're right. If we focus in just on the weddings, then we will be known for just being a wedding venue, which we don't want to. And so that's why a lot of people ask, you guys juggle so many balls. And I think we are juggling so many balls because we're trying to diversify our offering in so many different pockets, if you like, because that's what we have to do, because we we are so remote away from these cities. We're in a beautiful part, an area of outstanding natural beauty. It's quiet here. There aren't any cars. You can't hear them. There's no planes ahead. There's no trains nearby. And that's wonderful. But again, as far as running a business here, it makes it
challenging.
Yeah.
So when you and I have talked about all of this, and we've thought about the problem of not getting enough visitors, the problem of having too many weddings, not enough accommodation, one of the things we have thought about is that we could increase our accommodation levels.
Yeah.
And that wouldn't just help support the weddings, it would also help support people coming on holiday here.
Exactly.
And this is something that's really worth talking about, because this again is not an easy decision.
It's not.
For several reasons. First off, we don't want to convert too many houses for holiday lets, because if you do that, you begin to take housing away from the local community, and you also change the nature of the community. It has fewer people living at Mapperton, so there is less of a Mapperton community, and that is a real shame.
And can you just backtrack really quickly? Can you just in one sense, for everybody watching, Mapperton itself is a village. Can you kind of describe the village here? And
well, there are about 50 people who live in and around Mapperton Estate. And obviously there's the village of Mapperton, but there's also the village of Porton to the south, and there's the village of Melplash, and we've got some properties in each of those as well. But Mapperton is centred around the Mapperton parish, which is the village that is at the top of the drive, and that includes people from Coltley. It includes
where
people,
our Rewilding project is.
Yeah, it includes people from Marsh Farm, etc.
Marsh Farm, where we store.
So we've got to weigh up the holiday cottages, which can generate a lot more money for the estate than a long let, but where you lose the local people being able to come and live in a particular area for a long time. You know, you're displaced by tourists in the summer. And so there's understandably a concern about that, particularly at a time when there isn't enough housing. But at the same time, we have to do some of that, because that does really help pay the bills. So getting that balance right, I think personally that we will end up converting a few more.
So we have about
properties.
5 or 6.
So we might end up with 5 or 6.
Yeah, we've talked about that
holiday
number.
lets at Mapperton, and that would be really helpful. And then, of course, there's the opportunity to convert redundant farm buildings.
We have so many.
So there's so many buildings that are falling down that could be wonderful. But then we get into the other massive problem, which of course is the cost. Because every time we convert a holiday cottage, you know, it's between £50,000 and £100,000 at least, and probably more than that.
And people will question that, being like, how can that be? Well, it actually is. The increase of sort of building materials has really gone through the roof. And as much as Luke and I would want to renovate one of those cottages ourselves in order to maybe save costs, we don't have the time because we're running a business here. I think that's a big difference. I mean, I would want to renovate it.
Julie is very good at throwing on her boiler seat. Sometimes you get stuck doing that for hours. Now, do you like it?
I like it. But having said that, I think it's really important to note that, again, it's something that myself, and I'm, you know this, that I would love to learn all of these different trades. I would absolutely love to do it, but there's just no time because we are running.
Well, you've learned a few trades, haven't you?
I've learned bookbinding.
You're quite a good decorator.
I'm a good decorator.
Bookbinding.
I can definitely clean ceilings. In fact, the one up above has some smoke on it from that.
Tapestry restoration.
Yeah.
Not
Tapestry
quite.
restoration. That's coming. Picture restoration is going to be my next thing.
Yeah.
But
pig farmer. I'm
and you're farmer. So I always think I'm sort of so I always think that I kind of look after the things on the inside. I'm not saying you don't help as well, but you're also...
No, I don't.
But you look after things on the outside.
But I also have to kind of oversee the team and all the other...
Yeah, but you look after the Rewilding project and the animals and...
But anyway, so we've got more... we have got a couple of holiday cottages now. We'd like to have probably another 2 or 3 or so.
Yeah.
That would be really helpful. We're also thinking about something else which could really help with accommodation and which is really trendy these days. And these are things that you might call pods or shepherd's huts or cabins. because we've got this wonderful countryside, because we've got this rewilding project, because we're close to the sea, it's West
we have
Dorset,
everything here.
It's stunningly beautiful. There's great restaurants,
we just don't have a big town.
we think that we need accommodation at all levels. So we have had a plan to put in a campsite for self-pitch so that people can come and camp here. And with that, we would have some more bell tents. We've already got a couple of bell tents for glamping. So we would expand that. But in addition to that, I have this vision of what I'll call pods for the time being.
Right. Some
sort of interesting, well-designed structure that is out in the landscape, kind of sympathetically positioned and landscaped so that it's, it's not an eyesore.
No, it blends in.
And where people can come and it's affordable and they can come and stay there for weddings, but they can also just come and stay there as part of a retreat. And we've had various people who've contacted us wanting to put these in partnership. But I think we want to do it ourselves, and we've got to really now, I think, think very hard about exactly where we do this.
We do. And the other thing I think we've talked about as well, and is, yes, this is something that we have looked at. We've looked at there have been drawings done around where we want to put them, but there are lots of people doing this.
Yeah, well, there are lots of people doing variations of this.
Yeah.
So over COVID, lots of people went into glamping. Lots of farms have diversified with shepherd's huts and things like that. So that is true. I think we've got a couple of unique things here. First of all is the rewilding project.
Of course.
You are right in the middle of a truly wild area. It's not just a corner of a field.
No, exactly. It's 1,000 acres.
Then you've also got the access to all of the things that are here. The cafe, the gardens.
The house tours.
There's more going on as we do that. There is sort of a bit of saturation in that market, but I still think it's something we can do if we do it in a way that that distinguishes itself from others. But it comes slightly back to the weddings thing, because here's the other problem. The moment we have a piece of accommodation and we let it out for a wedding, we let it out for 2 nights of the week. Now, in the high summer, that means somebody can't come and take that for a weekend or for a week.
Right,
because the Friday and the Saturday have gone, and then we're losing the income on the other nights. And of course, what that pushes you towards is say, well, let's do more weddings, because if we did 2 weddings a week, then you'd be getting at least 4 nights of guaranteed income per week. But then you're suddenly into becoming much more of a wedding factory, where you're doing 30, 40 plus weddings a year.
Do you see? This is a real dilemma.
This is the thing. This is what's so hard. And also, if people with weddings book way in advance, then they've taken up those spaces, and it just puts off other people doing it. So I'm finding balancing the need for accommodation for weddings with the need for us to have good accommodation for people wanting to come here on holiday quite tricky.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's just something that you and I, we mull over it all the time. We go back and forth. We're always having this kind of conversation. It doesn't mean that we're not moving forward. We are moving forward in, looking at different cottages on the estate that have now become available after a sort of a long rental period. And do we take that back in hand and make
I've had a thought. I mean, maybe what we do with the weddings is we just say, if you want to take a holiday cottage at the same time as a wedding, you just have to take it for 4 days.
Well, I think that's a really good idea, and I think somebody would really like that.
I know, but other people wouldn't, you see. But I think we have to do that. I think we're going to have to do that. Because we're getting too many bookings just for a couple of days, and then it puts people off the rest of the week. I mean, some holiday cottages in the summer, it's from a Saturday to a Saturday.
Exactly,
it's 7
that's what you have to
days in
have.
the week, and that's how you get your occupancy.
Yeah. I think it gives people a good excuse then, if they're coming for the wedding, to have longer, and it will force them to have longer. And I think that's actually a positive rather than a negative. Did you just come up with that idea right now?
No, I've been thinking about it for a while. There is, of course, another thing that we've done here at Mapperton, which hasn't taken off, and we're really surprised by it. So for the first time this year, we have made Mapperton House itself available for people to come and rent. And
It's
we've
unbelievable.
had
You can even find
almost-
us on Airbnb.
Well, yeah. Well, Mapperton is on Airbnb.
Mapperton is on
You
Airbnb.
you can take the whole house
Yes.
for yourselves. Bring your family here. There are 9 bedrooms. It can sleep 15
We
or
won't
16
be here.
people.
We won't be here.
We would move out because there are some weeks of the year when we can either be in London or we go on holiday.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do this on a very limited basis. So
5 to
maybe
6 weeks
5
a
to
year.
6 weeks a year. And we just thought that people would want to do that. But we've had almost no inquiries, and it's very
Yeah,
odd.
so
Maybe people have some ideas.
Let
as
me
to-
just. So he didn't just say we haven't had. He didn't say we haven't had almost any whatever bookings.
Whatever I say.
But inquiries. We're not even getting inquiries. That's what's so
Well,
astounding.
we've had some from people who just want to come for a night here and a night there. And in fact, we've had one today. Our very first one came in today.
Like a real one.
A real one for September. It's quite good dates, actually. It might work.
Okay,
Now, this is
okay.
different from weddings because we feel that a wedding party is slightly riskier because you might have people coming in from the wedding who've had a bit much to drink, whereas a family or a multi-generational group coming to stay in the house
To celebrate
that's
something.
that's a wonderful thing. We think that's a brilliant use of the house,
Yes.
and we'd love people to be able to come and enjoy
Yeah.
Mapperton in the same way. There are some challenges with it, though, of course, which is that usually when you go and rent a place with your family, you get the whole thing for yourself. Now here, that is true. You get the whole house. But if it's in the summer or even in September, the rest of the estate, and in particular the gardens, are still open to the public. So you'd have to be happy with coming into the house, knowing that the public will still be
Not in the house. We would close, but the public would be.
would be outside.
Exactly.
And people may not be comfortable with that. Maybe that's part of the reason that we haven't been getting the big. Yeah.
What do you guys think? I mean, I would like that because then you have a cafe on your doorstep. Just think, there's a cafe, there's energy
Yeah.
buzzing around, and the public leaves at 4:30. So you have the evenings, and you have sort of that that sweet spot of the sunset all to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, there is this one in September now. If we do get a booking in September, we would close the house, obviously, for tours
yeah.
and things during that period. Because
Yeah.
I think that would be a bit much, wouldn't it? You're sitting having your breakfast and suddenly you've got 15 people
We could
walking
just
in.
train up.
People might like that.
We could train up the guests who are staying here to be tour guides.
To be tour guides. That would be brilliant.
That would be
Yeah.
brilliant.
So
they probably like that.
That's something else that you can, by the way, we've tried a lot of things, haven't we, here?
You and I have been running or managing Mapperton now for 6 years, and we have really thrown many hats at this place, saying, put this one on. And I feel that little by little, they're, making sort of small dents, but they're not making, as we talked about earlier, we need one of them to make a big dent. I think that's the difference. We have all these.
Well, there is one that's making a big dent, which
that?
nobody else is doing.
Yes.
And that's this.
Right. There we go. I was like, what is he going to say?
Julie had forgotten.
You're right.
She'd
YouTube.
forgotten that we've
This has been one of, I think, the most fun and best things we have done for this house, garden, and estate.
Yeah, and it has, as you say, it's been great fun. It's
fun.
It's really helped. We've got this fantastic community of patrons who support Mapperton every month through their subscriptions, and that has been a huge help. So
and also that's been a huge help. But those of you who just watch our videos on YouTube, it has been a massive help as well, watching the ads and just tuning in. That's all, just coming here and being part of the community is wonderful, because also those of you, so many of you who've been watching us on YouTube, you've now come and visited the house as well.
That's true.
So
Last
that's
year,
been so amazing.
Last year, it was something like 1 in 10 visitors were actually people who'd found out about us on YouTube.
Yeah,
so
and I think this year it's even more, because
more.
anytime I go into the cafe to check up on things,
it's quite risky going into the cafe.
Yeah,
now,
so we
isn't
say,
it?
I follow on YouTube, it's so nice. So I've definitely given more hugs this year to members of the public
more
who
YouTube
are
hugs.
YouTube hugs. So
if you're coming to visit and you're a YouTube fan, you will get a hug from Julie.
Yeah,
so
so it's
that is
just
a
been-
reason to visit. Isn't it?
digitally, it has been absolutely a lot of fun. We are the first and only historic house to be doing this. We've been doing it now for 3 years. And this is a really good time just to say thank you to all of you who watch us week in and week out. And now kind of this new playlist, Fireside Chats, which we'll be doing hopefully twice a month. And I think that's really important. And it's, you know.
There is an issue with it though, of course, which is that everything that we do at Mapperton, we want to be sustainable.
Yes.
And there will come a time when Julie and I have to hand over to somebody else.
Yes.
Will they want to carry on with YouTube?
Yeah, I haven't necessarily really thought about that because I still think that we're still really quite young. We've got a lot of energy. We're not going anywhere anytime soon.
But in places like this, you've got to think 50, 100 years ahead.
Right.
If we put all our eggs in the YouTube basket and then the next generation doesn't want to do it,
well, we'll have some good archive content.
We will have some good archive content. We've already got some pretty good archive content.
We'll just have, people will just keep watching. I mean, that's the wonderful thing is that people keep watching the older videos. And
now there are other things that we've done at Mapperton, which is just worth talking about. And I'd be interested to hear from you as to where you think they sit in terms of the longer term. Because really the purpose of today is to talk about some of the kind of strategic questions that we have to think about, this balance between all the different things that we do. And one of the things that we are doing a lot more of, and we're doing them successfully, and people are absolutely loving, are events. And Julie, you've been driving that, obviously, with Holly here.
Yeah, Holly, everybody is our events and weddings manager. So
but again,
she's amazing.
we've also...
I think we make a good team.
You make a really good team, but we've also learned just how much time these things take, and sometimes that can take you away from other things. And so what do you think about the balance of this? How do we get that balance right? Do you think have we reached peak event? Have we got enough now? Or are we going to keep going with more and more?
I think that when Holly and I are in conversation about it, we always start the events quite small. So Holly wasn't here when I started the Christmas market, and that was in 2021, and that was right out of COVID. That was the year after COVID, and we started really small with about 20 stalls, and it's grown from there. And now this year, Holly has booked in 90 stalls. We have 6 live bands. We have Father Christmas coming. I mean, it's, lots of food vendors. It's amazing. And I think we're at our peak there as far as how big it's going to be.
We don't want to get bigger.
No.
Not least because the car park won't cope.
Right, exactly. So, that has been a tremendous success and really happy with that. So my view is kind of every 2 years, you look at maybe I can do something new. So this year we decided to do a food and drink fair. Again, I think that we have a really good blueprint for it is to start small. And that's exactly what we did. We had about 20 plus food and drink vendors out there. We had, over 1,000 people came over 2 days. That's a great number. And it was profitable. It wasn't hugely profitable, but it was profitable enough.
It was a really good start.
It's a really good start. We didn't lose money. And so next year, we're going to double that. So we're kind of following the success of the Christmas market and how well that has been, and doing the same thing. So of course, when you're asking me about, well, what do I want to do next? Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, we will be doing, because it is in the diary, we're going to be illuminating the Italianate gardens just for a week in December this year. And the wonderful thing, I'm going to go back quickly to Historic Houses, the association is, we all meet at, whether it's business conferences or at the AGM once a year, but we learn from one another. And one of the houses that was speaking at one of the business conferences I recently went to and I spoke at was about the illumination of these gardens. And they started doing it a week, and then it's grown to basically over a month. So we're gonna start that small. And then another event I think we'll do, not next year, because we need to grow the food fair, is I would like to do what's called like a frock me fair. So it's lots of a vintage, everybody knows I love wearing charity.
A frock me?
Yeah, frock me fair.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, frock me fair. There's a big one in London.
What about men? Trouser me.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be frock me. There'll be some bits for men,
rude.
But it's basically recycling clothes and recycling accessories. Right. And there's lots of, especially on Instagram, lots of people selling and really going to search at sort of car boot sales, and they're the ones who are curating it. They have their sort of stall, and you do a frock me fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably
Frock Me
2026.
Frock Me is a thing coming to Mapperton. If it isn't a thing,
Yeah.
it will
be a thing in 2026.
Yeah. So again, that's another ball over here that we're juggling.
Yes.
In fact, within that ball, there are several smaller ones.
Because we do
We've
other...
got weddings over here. We've got visitors over here. We've got accommodation over here.
Yeah.
We've got glamping over there. We've got YouTube over here.
Yeah.
We've got obviously the gardens, which are part of the visitor experience.
Yeah. Did you mention rewilding?
We haven't got to that yet.
Oh, right, yeah.
We've got group visits. Now that is one of the things that we think we can do more on.
Absolutely.
Because when we have people coming to Mapperton, either they're coming individually or they're coming on a bus. The wonderful thing about a bus is it brings 30 to 40 people.
Sometimes 50.
We know they're coming. We can plan ahead. We can get their menus. And it's a really good number of people. We can plan for the tours and all the rest of it.
And it helps with secondary spend.
So we've got a good strategy for getting more groups, not least because quite near us in Dorset is a place called Weymouth. And close to Weymouth is the port of Portland, which is where really big cruise ships come and dock.
And we
4,000 people come off them, and they're all looking for things to do. And we haven't tapped
every
into
day.
that. Every day.
No.
Yeah. Well, not quite every day. I think
We
every
have-
other day in the summer.
Right, in the summer. We have not tapped into that market.
No. So we can be getting more buses coming to Mapperton, bringing people here as part of a group tour. You've got some plans for that, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. So I've got to get those my Alberta American Heiress exhibition. Reminds me after this, I need to get those flyers in an envelope and send them off. Yeah.
So groups is another thing. And then, as Julie said, we've got this rewilding project. So again, all about balance. We've got lots of visitors coming to the house and gardens, but wouldn't it be great if more visitors came in order to go onto the wider estate? And there are two ways that they can do that. One is to go on what we call Mapperton walks, which are the trails that exist going around the estate. These are public footpaths, public rights of way, and we encourage that. We've even got a map.
Yes.
People can come park, they get food in the cafe, that helps us, and then they head off on their walk. We're about to launch, and we'll be doing probably an episode on this soon, self-guided rewilding safaris. And this is where you can pick up a ticket in the coach house with another map, and that takes you through the rewilding. So you learn all about the project, all of our plans for nature recovery.
That's taken a long time to put together.
You get to meet all of the animals that we have here. So obviously the Exmoor ponies, the Tamworth pigs,
the White Park
cattle. You won't probably meet the beavers, not least because they've gone on holiday at the moment. But
you wouldn't see them anyway because they're nocturnal.
Because they're nocturnal. But you also see the different ways that the landscape here is evolving and recovering. So it's a really interesting self-guided walk. And you haven't even seen this. There's all these there's a children's trail within it with stamps, so kids can collect stamps.
No!
So we've got these QR codes, so if you want to learn more.
See, he's more of the
you've got
outside,
we've got
and I'm the interior.
We've got a wonderful picture frame that's going up so that you can stand back and look at the landscape as if through a picture frame and take a photo and then come back and see how that changes through the season, how it's changing over time. All of these things.
So when has that launched yet?
It's launching very soon.
Oh, there we go. We are.
Not quite on the dot of 12, but it's launching, I think, within the next week.
Okay.
So we really hope people are going to come and do that. But again, it's another thing over here that adds to this kind of mix, but also, adds to the complexity of what we're trying to do. One of the hopes with that, by the way, of course, is that people can come and visit Mapperton, and in the past they might just have had the house and gardens and gone to the cafe. Now they can make a whole day of it because they can do a self-guided walk as well. And of course, there's a new thing that we did last year, which has only really kicked in this year. On top of that,
are the walks.
No.
There's
so many new things, you can't remember them all, can we? The play areas.
Oh, the play areas, right, yes.
It's all about having more reasons for people to come and visit.
I thought you meant the yellow, red, blue walks. We have those as well. If you don't want to go on a self rewilding walk.
I mentioned those before.
Oh, you did? See, there's so many.
But we have the play areas as well for kids, trying to get more families to come, particularly in the summer months.
We are trying everything.
So you've got the beaver play area, which is for younger kids.
Yes, I love the beaver play area.
Where kids, they've got teepees, they've got little swings.
The water play area.
You can make dams like beavers, and you collect these little.
We have little
characters from the cafe.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Lost Village play area, which I think is just brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's
and you
for
can
bigger
do brass
kids,
rubbings there.
You know, proper size swings. You know, Lost Village, brass rubbings.
Yeah.
All the rest of it. Has the canopy gone back up? Because that was being fixed. I don't know.
We've got to check
on that. I tell you something. If you think about all these different areas,
Yeah.
within each of them, there's so many different little things, and you just have to remember all of that detail. And a number of times I wake up in the middle of the night thinking something like, has the canopy gone back up because it's been repaired? Have the new signs that have just arrived been put up at the top of the drive? And I think, gosh, if I'm not going to remember that, I've got to write it down. So I wake up, I write it down, then I try to go back to sleep.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
But
and then there's YouTube.
And then there's YouTube, which is what we're filming today. Yeah. Which again, we should. I mean, listen, I love it, everybody, and I'm just so pleased that we have created this community, because especially when we talk about how we're so far away from a big town and getting physical visitors in, what has been a real joy are, of course, our virtual visitors, and that is all of you watching,
and of course our patrons.
Yeah.
So many of whom we've actually got to know personally. But the YouTube viewers, the patrons, it's a digital community that we couldn't really have dreamt of a few years ago.
Yeah. So, right.
Yeah.
Have we done it?
I don't know. I feel like I feel like we've left something out. Don't you? What else is happening here, Chris? Have we left anything out? No.
Chris is filming us, everybody.
Yeah,
it's nice over there.
Yeah, there's definitely some things it's going to come to me just as we leave.
Just as we leave. Well,
anyway,
we'll put it in the comments below.
These were some of the things that we think about. We hope it's been interesting to you to hear about the many reasons that we are excited about this place, but also sometimes lose a bit of sleep trying to remember
a lot of sleep. But it's worth it, because I really feel strongly, especially as an American who's married into this house and this estate, how important it really is to preserve for future generations. And that's not just the building itself. It's not just the Italianate gardens. It's the community, preserving the community for future generations. It's preserving what we've done on the estates, the Rewilding project. And
people always say that. They say it's for future generations, and that, of course, is true. But it's really for people who come here now.
Oh yeah, and that as well.
Opening this up for people here now, whether you're coming in person or whether you're watching us online. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you. We hope you've enjoyed our very first fireside chat.
Yeah.
And we hope to film 2 of these a month. So be sure to subscribe, to like, and turn notifications on. And each fireside chat that we do, we will be discussing a different topic. It's not always going to be about Mapperton.
And it might not always be both of us. We might have special guests sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So we might have special guests.
And let us know if there are particular people you want us to get into the fireside chat.
I think your mother-in-law would be fantastic. Or my mother-in-law. That would be your mother.
That would be
fantastic. But do comment down below if there are topics that you'd like us to discuss. Let us down to know. We really value your feedback. And if there are special guests within the family or outside the family that you'd like to see, please do let us know. And I think that was really fun. We got to catch up.
Fun. Yeah, we did. It's really helpful for us.
It's really helpful for us. Anyway, bye everybody, and see you very, very soon.